Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to It's All About Health. I'm Doug Miles, once again sitting in for Rochelle Herman, who is feeling a little bit under the weather tonight, but she'll be back with you next week and be back with you on the radio tomorrow over at 1220 WIBQ, where I happen to work, and my guest co-host today happens to work. She was with us, I guess, about 3 or 4 months ago now when we did the show before together. Her name is Robyn Lynn. She's our entertainment and sports reporter over there. Robyn, good to see you again.
Good to be here.
It's been a while since we were here.
It has been.
What have you been up to? You've been covering baseball and hockey, I understand.
I have. I'm getting excited about the Lightning, which I will be there on Thursday evening.
That's right. You got to cover a couple of games already.
Yes.
And you did, last time you were with us, I think you were doing the Red Sox series. When the Red Sox were in town to play the Devil Rays.
I know.
So the locker rooms are a happier place now with you covering the teams, right? Robyn Lynn will be with us on tonight's program. We've got an interesting show for you. We're going to talk to our first guest of the night. And we're going to talk to you a little bit later on about a topic kind of related, identity theft. But our first guest has written a really fascinating novel. I had a chance to talk to him a little bit earlier today on radio. His name is Edward David Gil. And the issue of privacy versus security is an issue that has inspired heated public debate since 9/11. And Americans have struggled to agree on the acceptance of balance between privacy and security. And our next guest has written a novel about that kind of a thing. It's a fascinating book. And he joins us right now. His name is Edward David Gil. And he joins us by telephone from Los Angeles, I believe. Edward, are you there?
Yes.
Good to talk to you again. And how are things out in L.A.?
Oh, lovely. But don't let too many people know that. They'll all move out here.
That's right. We're going to get a shot of the book in just a minute. But talk a little bit about your background first and what gave you the idea to write this particular novel.
Sure. I used to work at Disney and at Sony. I was an executive involved in licensing intellectual property and technology. I've co-founded 2 technology companies involved in data mining and data warehousing. So it was really from the nuts and bolts of my daily sales existence, my engineers generally walked my talk, that I kind of extrapolated and took a lot of what-ifs and wrote a novel with the central idea being, what if privacy just doesn't exist anymore and we just don't know it yet? And the expert on everything is a story about a young fellow who is offered a 6-figure job after only a few minutes into an interview, doesn't realize he's being set up. He's mistakenly handed the company's only prototype of a technology that can erase the concept of privacy in our society. Well, this technology fits in like a hearing aid, and it talks back to you. Well, he's soon pursued like prey by some senators and some private company interests, and then the technology itself starts telling him its own agenda and holds people that he loves hostage, saying that maybe their planes will drop out of the air or the street lights will turn different colors and cause people to, hit them if he doesn't do now what the technology wants him to do. So it's sort of a catch-22 meets 3 Days of a Condor kind of a story.
I know everybody who's traveled in the last 5 years knows that the security is so tight, and the issue of profiling now at the airports and all sorts of technology to kind of keep up on people's whereabouts that may be suspicious, and technology has really almost become so good that, like you said, the privacy issue has really become the forefront of the debate right now. How much information is too much information, and that's kind of what your book is about, right?
Yeah, that's the thematic center of it. I think that we all don't realize the extent to which privacy actually doesn't exist. I did a little more research. By the end of this year, the U.S. government is going to start switching over to RFID, radio frequency ID passport. That means your passport will have a chip in it, and it can be read. It's read via proximity. You open it up, and the machine scans it. That also means anytime you open it up inside a hotel, a cafe, internet, a bank, what have you, when you're traveling, it can be surreptitiously read by someone, just like your data off your laptop can surreptitiously be read when you're in a Wi-Fi hotspot, like at Starbucks. So there's a big hole in that technology, and your privacy actually is at risk currently with that scenario. Another interesting application of technology is something I noticed that in London now, there are cameras that follow you literally everywhere in the city. Well, there's a small borough just outside of London where they have 158 cameras set up that talk back to you. Operators are watching what happens through the cameras. And, for example, one night a fist fight started outside of a nightclub. The camera bellowed out for both men to stop fighting. They were so startled, they looked up at the camera and they both ran their separate ways like two cats. So you can imagine when the cameras start talking back to you, the world has changed.
Wow, that sounds crazy. What made you decide to write this book, and is there a potential for somebody to create and make this into a movie?
Well, what got me thinking about it was, as I said, being on the sales end of technology, it just occurred to me, my goodness, the things, one of my companies actually can pick up keystrokes. When you type in cat, it's used, by the way, what one of the companies does is it's used for online advertising like what Amazon does. You're interested in, for example, the expert on everything. Well, then you might like this book or that book. That kind of comparative analysis and data mining. And I realized that we were actually picking up people's keystrokes. When you typed in cat, we picked up the C and the A and the T on real time. I was just, as an individual, I was astounded by that. And so that just got my imagination going. And yes, of course, it would make a very interesting movie. Your mouth to God's ears.
That is a little scary, though, Edward, as you mentioned, how much people can find out about you nowadays. Just going on the Internet alone, I had a situation not too long ago where somebody was able to hack into one of my accounts online, a bank account, and it is very scary when you don't know where it's coming from.
No, it really is. And, identity theft is a real issue, and I feel it's going to get worse. It's always sort of like an arms race between the I'll call them the good hackers and the bad hackers, the people who are figuring out how to combat all of this, and those who are doing the troublemaking. There's sort of a political premise to the book, and there's enough in the book for both blue and red states. But imagine this is a tool. I mean, the lack of privacy, as scary as it is, if you flip it, it also gives you a way to say, this is an open country, and this is something that one of the themes of the book that the characters deal with. Do we close our borders, or do we let trade and people in, and then just keep it as transparent as possible, and actually watch everything? I mean, just imagine you have to just, suspend your disbelief, and say, okay, what if it were actually possible? And watch everything, and then go find the bad actors and prune them from the society rather than shutting down society itself. I mean, that's something that the book deals with. And, frankly, at some point it ceases to become an issue of technology and really becomes one of ethics. Because if it were true that there is no privacy, then that means all of our quote-unquote dirty laundry is out there, and we had better find out how to become more tolerant of each other because there's a new reality. Now, of course, you draw the line at things that we all, can simply agree upon, like pedophiles and things that we would certainly want tracked and culled and taken out of society. But, someone's predilections for this or that or the other, I think we're just going to have to learn to all get along, as the joke goes now, but it may be quite true.
This privacy issue is scary for children. How do you address that, and do you address that in your novel?
I don't actually, but it extends. It extends into that world. I have a 6-year-old who has now gone beyond me with some of these car racing games online, and he's teaching himself, which is really this is a very amazing thing to me. How quickly him and his peers are teaching themselves. So it's going to be up to parents to keep educating themselves and stay ahead of their children's curves, which is impossible, quite frankly. In my case, I have engineers who can help me. I'll be implanting chips into the arms of my children, really. But I'll be trying to keep up with them. But inevitably, the children are going to learn their way all around this technology and run circles around the parents. And it will be an issue because you can't hide things from the kids anymore. They're exposed to, frankly, you might also say too much. And it's about just really helping them understand the world around them and staying close to them, because you're not going to keep anything from them any longer.
Edward, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier on radio, but the technology expanding so quickly, was it kind of a challenge for you to kind of fictionalize this and maybe add the dramatic twist in your novel? As technology increases so quickly, it probably is already happening, maybe what you imagine already.
Well,